This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America for this Wednesday morning. I'm Seth Merrill. Thanks for joining me on it. Yet another chilly morning up here in upstate New York, but it's supposed to turn around by tomorrow. Things are supposed to moderate, so we'll keep our fingers crossed there. Happy to be joined right at the top of the show. I mentioned it on the previous show. Rich Miglioria from the New York Racing Association joins us now. Rich, how's it going?
It's going good, Seth. I live halfway between Belmont and Saratoga, and it was pretty cold this morning as well.
Yeah, it was certainly the entire, well, it seems like east of the Mississippi has been hit with it, the polar vortex. But again, it's supposed to moderate a little bit. Have you seen a forecast for the return to racing tomorrow at Aqueduct?
Yeah, I think it's going to be in the 20s, which it'll be a heat wave compared to what we've been getting. So I'm sure the races will go off tomorrow without a hitch.
Give us a little perspective from your days as a jockey. What was it like riding in the wintertime with the, you get down in the 20s and whatnot?
Yeah, I said it wasn't too bad if it was cold. What made it tough was the wind. If it was windy and cold, it was a real tough time. And honestly, the inner track is much better when it gets cold and stays cold because it kind of freeze dries. So if you've had any moisture, snow or rain, once it gets cold, that track stays really tight, and years ago it would be very speed favoring then. When we've had problems with the inner track in the past is when we have a thaw and all that moisture that's in the track winds up thawing out and the moisture comes up from the bottom of the track. So I never minded the cold too much because, you win races, it's always warm in the winner's circle, right?
Yeah, very good point. All right. Rich, invited you on this morning because we have just a fun event coming up on the weekend. Down at Aqueduct. You're going to be hosting the new owners luncheon. And I know there's always a lot of folks who are maybe kind of sitting on the sidelines and thinking, boy, that'd be fun to become involved, either as an owner singularly, or these days, of course, you can come in for a fairly reasonable amount of money and join one of the syndicates, but they don't kind of know what's involved. And so over the past few years, folks down at NYRA put together these new owner luncheons. We have one coming up this weekend. Just give folks a feeling for what's involved at these new owner luncheons.
Yes, Seth, it's a really, really good time, and I think we've done a good job of kind of demystifying it, where, I think people think you have to have bottomless pockets to get involved, and we basically show them all their options, from, partnerships where you can buy in for, a few $1,000s to, getting involved individually or putting together your own partnership. We always have a great group of speakers. I try to bring people from different perspectives, where I'll have a claiming trainer and I'll have more of a society trainer. I'll have a claiming partnership and then more of a high-end partnership. Even accounting is covered. A great guy, Rick Moglia, who lives up in the Hudson Valley too, is so well-versed in what you can write off and how it works with tax liabilities. So it's really a very full program of speakers. And then also we have breakfast, we have lunch, paddock, we go to the winner's circle, we do a presentation. Ernie Munich also does a handicapping session with everybody, and I basically moderate and then talk with everybody and hang out. So if people don't get involved with ownership, I can promise they'll have a great day. Although we've gotten about 23% of people that have attended the 8 that we've had already have gotten involved in ownership.
That's amazing. So you're close to really up there around 50% of the people that attend wind up to be owners?
No, it's almost 25%, not quite 50%. So it's, and most of it's at the partnership level, but it's like what I tell people, do you want to see what it looks like from the inside looking out as opposed to the outside looking in, and that it might not be as daunting as a lot of people think, to get licensed, to get involved. And, of course, the way I try to explain it to people, look at it like you're taking money for a vacation. The way you know if that vacation was worth it is the memories you've made, the relationships you've made. That's kind of how you have to look at going into ownership. Nobody can guarantee you're going to make your money back or make a profit. But if it's income that you can afford to get involved with, that if you lose, it's not going to hurt you if you have a great experience. And that's what we're trying to set people up in a position where they're with a trainer they can communicate with people they can communicate with, and we want them to have a great time.
Excellent. 25% is still a pretty good hit rate. I thought you said 43%. You said 23, but 20 in that vicinity is still a pretty good hit rate, and shows that this is a successful event. And I'm just looking down the list of the folks that are involved this year, and you have some pretty potent names, certainly Jeremiah Engelhardt and Tom Morley, a couple of trainers that I had on with me on the show up at Saratoga this year, both really nice guys. And Jeremiah Engelhardt, of course, this year. King Krisa went over to Hong Kong with him. Ria Antonia in the Breeders' Cup, so he'll bring some interesting perspective. And on the partnership side, you have the folks from Drawing Away, who, of course, are so potent down there in New York. So I think you got a really good team lined up for Sunday.
Yeah, I think so. I really wanted to get some younger trainers involved to come down. Obviously, Tom Morley is a very interesting guy. Seth, he went through the Darley Flying Start program. He's been out on his own less than a year, and I like what I see from him. And Jeremiah is just a terrific guy, and he's really breaking out with some more high-profile horses. So I thought they'd be interesting to have on board. And
again, this is kind of an all-day affair. Kicks off at 8 a.m. and questions answered and whatnot. But then folks get to enjoy kind of a behind-the-scenes day at the races as well.
Oh yeah, and I'm with everybody till at least 3 o'clock. Sometimes through the last race. One in Saratoga, I had to excuse myself and go do some TV stuff, but then I came back afterwards, and that's when Ernie Munich kind of carries the ball for me. But like I said, this will be the 9th one, and we've really had a good time with them. PJ Campo and myself came up with this concept, just trying to attract new people into the game, and knock on wood, it's worked out really well so far.
And we've put a graphic up on the screen if folks are looking for more information. Again, this is this coming Sunday down at Aqueduct, and you can call 718-659-2206 for more info. We have the graphic right up there on the screen. Also, they can go to the Aqueduct website, and that information is there as well. Certainly would tell people to head down to that. So a great event. If you had any inkling in the back of your mind about becoming an owner, this is a way to get some pertinent and more information about that. And Rich, talking about doing interesting things like this, reaching out to the public, trying to bring in new owners, it just touched a memory of mine. I wonder, were you involved the week before the Belmont when NYRA brought in the local media folks? They had the kind of the media day and introduced the local media, and I guess a lot of those people had never been to the racetrack before. I thought that was a great event and a great idea, because I think we're in a day and age where a lot of sports departments, the guys and gals have never been to the racetrack before, and it sounds like coming out to the New York Racing Association in Belmont, leading up to the Belmont Stakes, really introduced some of these news people to the whole sport of horse racing, and in a positive way. Were you involved? And seems like that was a great event.
Yeah, yes, actually, I was involved with that. It wasn't my idea, but I did speak to the group, just to try to kind of open their eyes to, it's so for people to look at a jockey and think of a premier athlete. They're smaller than average men. They ride horses. How many people have experience riding horses, let alone in a competitive arena? So just try to open their eyes to, what the riders do, how difficult it is, how physically fit they are, and, again, bringing them inside a little bit to the mindset of a rider, and so they maybe have a greater appreciation of them as athletes.
Yeah, as I said, I thought that was a great event, and I think racetracks around the country should emulate that, bring in some of the local media and introduce them to a sport that maybe in this day, you went back 20 years, certainly 30 or 50 years, everybody in the sports department at a newspaper was familiar with horse racing. Not so much these days, so I think it's worthwhile for racetracks to reach out. So tip of the cap to NYRA for that idea earlier this year. Also, another great NYRA idea, you guys on the website offer up the National Racing Report video each and every week. It is you, Andy Serling, Jason Blewett, and I guess about a week or so ago, you guys put together a nice video looking back at the highlights of 2013. That's available still on the website, correct? And tell us a little bit about the year in review video.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun to do. I like the way the three of us kind of bounce off each other. I think we've got good chemistry, and we had talked about the things we thought were highlights. And to me, one of the biggest things was Princess of Sylmar. I just got such a big kick out of her and her connections, and I thought Ed Stanko really showed a great sense of sportsmanship going out to the Breeders' Cup. She basically had 3-year-old championship wrapped up, and he kind of put it on the line, but our sport needs more of that. We need people that want to run their horses and compete. Years ago, it wasn't a deal for a horse to get beat. It was a big deal when they didn't show up and compete. So I really applaud that. And we had a good time with it. Jason does a great job hosting. Andy's very opinionated, as I can be, so sometimes, we even get into it a little bit on the National Racing Report, and I think it makes for good TV.
And that's a weekly production, correct? And what day of the week does it typically come out?
Well, we were taping it on Wednesdays, and besides the NYRA website, HRTV's been running it as well. But now we're going to start taping it on Mondays because of the change in the schedule. My days off are generally Thursday and Fridays, and we just thought it would be more timely to do it on Mondays now instead of waiting to Thursday to shoot it. So, the new taping date will be on Mondays, and like I said, we have a lot of fun with it. It's more fun when we disagree on stuff.
And again, I think it's a great production, and folks can find that over on the NYRA website each week. And Rich, you talked about top stories from 2013. Last week and early this week, I've been asking the guests for some of the racing highlights from 2013, and virtually everyone has mentioned Gary Stevens, and Gary Stevens coming out of retirement. I want to get your thoughts. A little later on this morning, in fact, the announcement for the Eclipse finalists will be made. In the jockey category, over on the Equidaily website, I've been putting up the published Eclipse ballots as various pundits have put theirs out there on the internet. It's certainly a limited sample, but I've been amazed to see the number of folks on their ballot who put Gary Stevens on top in the jockey category. What are your thoughts there? Stevens, who is a great story coming out of retirement, but boy, Javier Castellano, how do you deny him with the numbers he put up this year?
Well, as much as I think the comeback is unbelievable, and Gary and I are friends, and we've talked about it, I can't even imagine, it'll be 4 years coming up since I rode, and he was out 7 years, albeit he chose to retire. His knees weren't great, but it was his decision. It's phenomenal what he's done. I think it's one of the greatest sports comeback stories in history, not just great racing comeback stories, and he's ridden amazingly, but it would be a travesty if Javier Castellano didn't win the Eclipse Award this year. He's the first guy since 1980 to lead in both money earned and wins, not since Chris McCarron, who was a landslide winner of the Eclipse Award that year, has anybody pulled this off. So I just, as much as I think Gary, it certainly deserves any accolades he gets, Javier Castellano is supposed to win the Eclipse Award this year.
Yeah, I tilt right to your camp, and I'm exactly what you said. I think Stevens, just as a general sports story, is great, and I wish the mainstream media would pick it up and push it a little more. But on the numbers, and as you say, Castellano leads in wins and money won, and in both categories pretty comfortably. So it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out when those get announced. And Rich, before we let you go, I also want to touch on the Apprentice Eclipse possibilities. I wonder if you've had a chance to watch Victor Carrasco down in Maryland, your thoughts on him. And of course, Trevor McCarthy down in Maryland has done a very good job as well. And in New York, you have Manny Franco and Esquivel also, who did so nice over in Chicago. Hasn't been quite as proficient since the move to New York. But again, I think Manny Franco is looking pretty good this winter in New York. Give us some of your thoughts on the Eclipse potential for Apprentice.
Yeah, I am familiar with the two kids from Maryland, Carrasco and Taylor, but I got to say, to me, Manuel Franco is the most talented apprentice riding right now. His seat is basically perfect. He's got a good set of hands. He rides a smart race. He's got as good a finish as we've seen, and it kind of along the lines with the Ortiz brothers, who, obviously very talented. Their apprentice years weren't managed in a way to win the Eclipse Award. They didn't take advantage of a full amount of time. They basically had their bug in 2 separate years, which kind of precluded them from winning it, but they certainly were the most talented. And, the same thing with Manuel Franco. He kind of, comes from cut from the same cloth, the jockey school in Puerto Rico. They all admire Angel Cordero, and you can see that influence is rubbed off on them. I think Manuel Franco, to me, would be, if I had a vote, that would be where I would go. But all of these kids are terrific, and McCarthy, he looks so much like his father. It's uncanny. I rode with his dad. I mean, he's like a clone of his dad.
Yeah, I was amazed when they came out with the year-end stats for Maryland racing. Trevor McCarthy was the leading jockey in Maryland last year. So there's a tip of the cap to him. And now Carrasco doing so well since he moved up to Maryland. So they're getting some attention on a circuit that for years was a great breeding ground for apprentices. But again, we have some good apprentices this winter down at Aqueduct. Manuel Franco, certainly one to keep our eyes on. Rich, certainly appreciate the visit this morning. Again, we will tout people to take a look at that new owner's lunch coming up on Sunday at Aqueduct. More information at the Aqueduct website, or folks can call 718-659-2206 and find out more info and register. Good luck with the new owner's luncheon, Rich, and we'll talk to you down the road.
Seth, I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard Migliori from the New York Racing Association. We'll head to our first break. When we come back, Jeremy Plonk, horseplayernow.com, and Countdown to the Crown. Stay tuned.
I'm Mark Cassano. Join me Saturday mornings at 10 for Down the Stretch. We'll inform, analyze, and welcome in the biggest names in racing. So join me Saturday mornings at 10 for Down the Stretch, right here on the OTB Television Network.
Here in upstate New York, no one provides bettors with more wagering options than Capital OTB. Our network of branch and easy bet locations stretches from the mid-Hudson Valley all the way to the Canadian border and west to central New York. So whether you need to place a bet, fund your Capital Bets account, or watch the next big race, all the action is just around the corner. A full list of our branch and easy bet locations can be found online at capitalotb.com. Capital OTB, the better and most convenient choice for wagering in upstate New York.
Wagering at CapitalOTBBet.com is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Capital Bet TV, the fastest and easiest online wagering experience where you can monitor 5 different tracks simultaneously. 2. Capital Bet Express. Its straightforward program layout and interactive handicapping information lets you build your wager quickly and efficiently. And 3. Capital Bet Pro, designed especially for the professional horse player. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Hey, race fans, head down to the all-new Clubhouse Racebook and get in the game. With live horse racing on more than 250 flat-screen TVs, state-of-the-art wagering terminals, fantastic food and drinks, an amazing Vegas-style atmosphere with seating for nearly 900 of your closest friends. Conveniently located at 711 Central Avenue, right off Exit 5 of I-90 in Albany, the Clubhouse Racebook is the better choice.
I'm Anthony Mormino. Join me weekdays at 9 for the Handicappers Report. We'll handicap the top tracks across the country and help you prepare for the day in racing. That's the Handicappers Report, weekdays at 9, only on the OTB TV network.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Happy to be joined now by Jeremy Plonk, horseplayernow.com, and Countdown to the Crown. Good morning, Jeremy.
Good morning, Seth. Great to be with you.
Happy to have you on board. And second visit this week. We had you on with us on Sunday on Loose on the Lead, and we had you on Sunday because as you've touted on the program for, about a month now, horseplayernow.com, Countdown to the Crown, you came out and published a digital magazine, the 2014 preseason annual, looking at the Triple Crown, a preseason look, if you will, at the Triple Crown Trail. And as noted, it came out at the end of last week. Still have it linked up at Equidaily. Great product. I would certainly tout it to people. But again, for folks who maybe weren't tuned in Sunday, give us a little overview of what the product is all about.
Well, I appreciate the kind words. It's kind of a labor of love. It's one of those things where for my entire life I've been reading the preseason magazines, the Street and Smith, the Lindy's, the Sporting News, and all the different team sports. And I know that there's a thirst for that out there, and we've never had that in thoroughbred racing. And our regular season, to me, is the Triple Crown Trail that leads up to the playoffs and the World Series, if you will, or the Super Bowl. when we get to those big 3 races in May and June. So what I want to do is put something together that puts all of our fans and all of our gamblers on the same page, where we can look at the entire crop. We can look at all the races on the trail. There's historical notes and handicapping nuggets on 37 stakes races between now and the Belmont Stakes that you can keep going back and referring to all season long, like we do with our preseason annuals, whether we're in a fantasy football league or we're just a fan of the Giants or the Jets. You know, you're going back and you're checking your matchups each week and things like that. And we've got a list of more than 400 horses to watch in the big list, as we call it, within that Countdown to the Crown annual. And that allows you to go in and get a little bit of research and dig on horses that you're going to see in your company lines and running lines throughout the entire year. It may help you hit a maiden race in April, and that's kind of the thing that I really dig, that it's not just about the Triple Crown Trail. It's a great handicapping tool.
Yeah, again, it's a fun product, and it's a digital product. It's online, but you can pull it up on the computer or on your mobile device, your tablet, and it has the look and a feel, as you say, one of those glossies you see on the newsstand preseason of college basketball or NFL football, but it is taking a look at the 3-year-olds in the Triple Crown Trail. A great job and a great product. Tell people to check that out, certainly. Speaking of the Triple Crown Trail, with the turning of the calendar, the 2-year-olds became 3, and we've had a number of 3-year-old races worth taking a look at from the past week. We'll get some of your thoughts on some of the more notable ones over the past 7 days. Going to start things out going back to last Friday at Gulfstream with an allowance event that is getting a lot of buzz. We're going to watch the stretch run here of that Gulfstream allowance, and a ding-dong battle between the number 6 Commissioner coming out of the Todd Pletcher barn and the number 5 Top Billing. I think the connections of both of these horses were pretty pleased with the performance. And when I originally saw this race, if folks see it right there, it looked like things squeezed a little bit by Commissioner with Top Billing. I was surprised there wasn't an inquiry. We subsequently had Mike Welch on with us Sunday. He said, you know, he didn't think there was that much to really complain about. I went back after that and took a couple more looks at the head-on, and you know what? We saw the stretch run from the pan shot here, and it looked like a little something, but I kind of agree with Welch. When you look at the head-on, maybe not that much to complain about. Things probably wound up the way they were going to wind up. But again, Commissioner and Top Billing going forward, seems like the connections are happy, and a couple of horses we should keep our eyes on.
Absolutely. Those Gulfstream allowance into the stakes ranks have really been a key factor to watch over the years. I mean, the Florida Derby traditionally is won by a horse who began the season in the allowance ranks at Gulfstream Park, and that's one of our angles in that Countdown to the Crown annual. You'll see when you get to the Florida Derby page. Look for horses rising out of the allowance ranks. This is the kind of race that will produce a Florida Derby kind of horse, because the splits throughout this race, Seth, they pounded out the 24s, as my buddy Bob Newmeyer likes to say, 24-38, 24-65, 24-78, 24-65, the 4 quarters going around, and then they came home the final 8 in an absolutely sensational 12-26. A mile and 1/8 for 3-year-olds early in the season, 12-26 coming home, and you've got pedigrees with both Commissioner, both horses who ran 1-2 in this race. Top Billing also has the pedigree. You've got Pletcher and Shug. I mean, there's not much more you want out of an early season allowance race than this. And I don't think it was one of those too much too soon kind of races that it was super taxing. It's not like they went up there and threw a 148 on the board, and something crazy that you just don't want to see this early in the year. This was a perfectly run race that had a good tempo all the way through, and they came home fast. 2 quality horses, 2 stakes horses moving forward for sure.
Yeah, disappointment in there was Chad Brown horse who went off as the favorite. 8-5, Cousin Stephen winds up 5th in there. But certainly if you're a Pletcher fan, you can't argue with the $15.60 you got on a Pletcher, good-looking Pletcher 3-year-old. We'll watch that one going forward. Up at Aqueduct, it was the Jerome Grade 2 event, $200,000 purse, 1 mile and 70. We'll watch the stretch run here. And as we come into the stretch run, I'll tell people to watch on the rail the number 2 Scotland in those green colors. This horse to me was interesting coming into the race. We talked with John DeSilva last week, and he kind of talked about it, and that piqued my attention. And Scotland right here looked to make kind of a winning move. I just have a feeling Scotland was maybe a little green, and in between the rail and the eventual winner just didn't want to go through, and then fades a little bit, but holds on to be 3rd. Scotland is one I'm going to watch going forward. I thought Noble Moon, with the challenge on the inside and the outside, showed some grit coming down and then pulls away. And Classic Jack and Roll I thought was a decent second. So in here, maybe no superstars, but I think 3 horses that I'm going to kind of give one more race to and see what we have coming up.
Yeah, Noble Moon missed a race in the Remsen because of the hives. So this horse was kind of behind the scheduling calendar a little bit. so tired at the end of this race. They all kind of labored coming home, but you'd expect that given that situation. So Noble Moon probably moves forward off of this race. Classic Jock and Roll may have been best on this day, really wide on the first turn, and I think that's a key factor in two-turn races. So Classic Jock and Roll gave up a lot of ground. And the horse you're talking about, Scotland, I think is a very interesting one. Here's what I want to see happen with Scotland. He's still a maiden, and he's kind of nibbled in a couple of these big races. I want to see Tony Dutrow drop him back into a maiden special weight race, get a confidence boost, and just blow a field away. If this horse drops into a maiden race and wins by 4 or 5 like you'd expect him to, then step back up into something like the Gotham. You know, don't take that next step in the Withers. I would pass the Withers, try to get an allowance race where you get some confidence in this horse, and then come back. And Scotland can be a real factor for something like the Gotham in mid-season here on the NYRA schedule. A confidence boost for a horse like that can do wonders.
Yeah, again, I found the move very interesting. Just seemed to maybe be a little green and not want to go through the opening, but he'll be one I'll watch going forward. Let's shift our attention now down to Gulfstream on Saturday. It was a spectacular bid. This is 6 furlongs, so, most of the 3-year-old races, in my opinion, over the past week or so, kind of a barometer event. At 6 furlongs, you don't really know if these are horses that are going to be meant to go longer later in the season. But the winner here, kind of interesting, the number 1 horse, Just Call Kenny, longest shot on the board, gets it done, and gets it done pretty convincingly. Running second will be a horse that I thought was interesting coming into this, CZ. The favorite in here, Trailblaze, for Todd Pletcher, 6-5, and that's the number 2 horse. Number 2, Trailblaze for Pletcher, kind of a disappointing 4th in this race. But again, Just Call Kenny gets it done, coming in from a race most recently in Maryland. 3 starts now, a couple of wins and a second-place finish. So interesting. I'm not sure what we have going forward out of this race, though.
Well, last night, Thoroughbred Daily News on Twitter reported that Just Call Kenny came out of the race with a left front fracture and is going to be out. So I'm not sure that we're going to see Just Call Kenny, but I have not seen that confirmed in other places. So that's something we want to follow up on. But one thing about this horse, Just Call Kenny, you know, he's on a good roll right now, and he's run well. And the horse who really kind of upended him in Maryland was Joint Custody, who came back and won the Maryland Juvenile Championship and really had his form flattered a lot of late. So I think what we saw in Florida, you know, maybe makes Joint Custody a little bit stronger than we thought coming out of Maryland, and maybe that horse rises up in the Aqueduct for Jerry Robb and takes a shot in the Withers coming up next month. Yeah,
I was going to bring exactly that up because the race we just saw, the Jerome Classic Jack and Roll had been beaten by Joint Custody. Just Call Kenny had been beaten by Joint Custody. And then in Maryland on Saturday as well, Germaniac and Jesse the Marine have been beaten by Joint Custody. So it's going to be fun to see him. You know, a good 3-year-old at this point in the year, they're going to, you know, go around and test the waters, you would think. So Joint Custody is going to be yet another one I'll keep my eyes on going forward. And finally, of the stakes action we'll look at from this past weekend, we'll go down to Tampa Bay and the Pasco $100,000 purse. Again, these are 3-year-olds. They're going 7 furlongs. We had Gary West on last week. He thought Giancarlo was kind of an interesting, potentially under-the-radar horse. That's going to be the number 6. Giancarlo will wind up running 3rd. Cool Cowboy was the 9-5 favorite in here. The number 1 horse runs 2nd. And drawing away late is going to be number 8, Mighty Brown for Tim Ice. Mighty Brown looks pretty good in here.
He does, and this is my favorite horse of the weekend of the stakes horses. I think Commissioner and Top Billing are obviously some stars that we saw in the allowance ranks. But of the stakes horses, Mighty Brown is the one I think you want to watch. Tim Ice, the trainer of Summer Bird, the Belmont winner from a few years back, has had some success on the trail. And Mighty Brown is a horse who I talked about needing that confidence boost. He had been a maiden running in a bunch of route stakes races. They dropped him at Tampa and got him a confidence boost out of the stakes ranks, and he ran through the wind sprinting. And I couldn't wait to get this horse back in the stakes race. And I was just praying that Cool Cowboy stayed in this race because he was cross-entered in the race at Gulfstream. And had Cool Cowboy come out, I think Mighty Brown would have been a pretty heavy favorite in this race. But with Cool Cowboy in the race, it allowed the price of Mighty Brown to stay up and attractive. He won and paid $9, and he was probably my best bet of the weekend. I loved him in that spot, and I think this is a horse who now stretches back out. He's got plenty of pedigree to go long. He ran in 6 or 7 different route races as a 2-year-old in either turf, synthetic, or dirt races. He's ready to stretch back out, and he's got options now. He can handle Tampa Bay Downs. Usually horses who run well at Tampa will do well at Keeneland. They'll move on to the Bluegrass. They handle Churchill Downs well typically. And with Tim Ice having some experience winning races at Oaklawn with Summer Bird, you might see this horse head back to Hot Springs at some point, too. So I think Mighty Brown is a horse who's going to have options, and Ice can shop around with him. I think this is a versatile horse who's going to be pretty neat on the trail. I'm not saying he's a classic race winner, but I think he can win one of the fairly big preps at a mile and a 16th or so.
Yes, he seemed pretty interesting over the weekend. In a weekend that I think were kind of barometer races for horses, and he now gets, I think, the thumbs up to move forward, certainly. We'll touch on some of the other races over the weekend with some horses that we might want to keep our eyes on. But before we do that, I just wanted to ask if you saw that Goldhawk, a horse we've talked about over the past couple of weeks, they've announced he'll head to the Lecomte. They're still not sure what to do. Same barn, Tapiture. They haven't announced the next start for him, but kind of a quick turnaround, kind of interesting. Goldhawk coming back January 18th in the Lecomte.
Yeah, he's going to strike while they're hot. I kind of thought they might wait for the next stop along the path, and then they could kind of divide up and go either Oaklawn or Fairgrounds with Tapiture and with Goldhawk. I'm kind of surprised to see him to come back that quick. He may be the kind of horse who's kicking the barn down and not capable of just kind of taking the edge off the fastball. So we'll see. Horses like that, though, that are really sharp early in the year, it's hard to keep them together and keep them at their top form all the way through May. So let's see how this horse does. Oxbow was similar last year, though. Oxbow was a horse who needed to run a lot and got better as it went, threw some clunkers in there, and kind of ran on the same circuit. Fairgrounds and then would ship out to Oaklawn as well. So Goldhawk could kind of be that Oxbow kind of horse from last year, and they're kind of setting that pattern up and setting that schedule up that way, the way it looks.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see because, again, it's a quick turnaround, so I'll be interested to see where they go next and if maybe there is a little space between the next one and they shoot for a points race and whatnot. All right, let's talk about you had three that you mentioned to me in an email that came out over the past few days that seem to be worth taking a little bit of a look at. First up, we'll talk about Bayern, who comes out of a maiden special January 4th at Santa Anita. Don't have any video of these, but we'll get some of your thoughts. And again, these are horses you want to keep in your mind going forward for the viewers. Bayern, first-time starter out of the Bob Baffert barn. And what's notable here, I'm looking back at the past 4 workouts prior to this race. 3 of those were at 6 furlongs, and pretty good. They're all 1:11 and change. So this horse comes in with plenty of work under the belt, 5-2 on the morning line, but being a Baffert, being showing those nice workouts. Gary Stevens on board, winds up going off as the 4-5 favorite and wins off by a little more than 3 lengths. What are your thoughts on Bayern?
Well, I like this one because he's not that typical speed-crazy pedigree that you see with a lot of Baffert horses. He's not a flashback. He's not one of those kind of horses who's built for the early part of the Triple Crown Trail, This is a horse who's second generation. He's a grandson of Wild Again and Thunder Gulch. He's by Awfully Wild. And so he's probably going to get better the longer they go. So he debuts at 7, not at 6 or not at Del Mar going 5.5 last year. He's a horse who, like you said, had the 6 furlong works under his belt. He came home the final 1/8 of a mile going 7 furlongs in 12:27. That's really strong. And for a horse who dueled with horses early in the race, you wouldn't have expected him to have as much natural speed as he did. He dispatched a really good barnmate named Hold Everything, who just stopped in the race and went on to a very impressive win. I think Bayern is a horse you definitely want to keep your eyes on. It's not coincidence that Baffert reached for Gary Stevens for this one in the debut. This is a horse who Baffert identified in our Countdown to the Crown preview. Gary West did the feature with him. He was unstarted at the time of the interview and at the time that the publication was produced. So this is a horse Baffert's had his eye on, and I think Bayern's one to watch moving forward. I think he'll go directly into the stakes ranks. You may see him in something like the San Vicente, another 7 furlong race since he did so well on this one going 7, and then after the San Vicente, get a shot to stretch out in something like the San Felipe.
All right, Bayern out of the Baffert barn. Another one to take a look at coming out of the Grand Motion barn. Grand Motion barn recently, however, and this is going back to the 3rd, January 3rd, down at Tampa, an allowance optional claiming event. This one's on the turf at a mile and a 16th. Ride Away gets the job done. This is a horse that had started in the Midwest in the first 3 career starts for Donnie Van Hemmel, moves into the Grand Motion barn, moves over to the turf and got it done. Just got up by a neck as the 7-2 price on, again, January 3rd down at Tampa. Your thoughts on Ride Away?
I've liked this horse for a month or 2 now, Seth. We do live chats on Friday night at horseplayernow.com in conjunction with Remington Park. We've done them for 4 or 5 years now. So we get to follow the Remington racing quite a bit. We got to see Ride Away win his race before he was transferred. Pin Oak Stud, still the owner. They have horses with Von Hamel. They have horses with different trainers around the country, including Grand Motion. Immediately after his win at Remington Park, where a horse came up on his outside about 4 or 5 paths wider than him, and he just re-broke again and galloped out like a monster past the wire. And I just immediately went into my Equibase virtual stable and put Ride Away down while we were in the middle of the chat. I was like, I want to follow this horse. There's a lot about him I like. And then the next day, I sent an email to Chris Katulak, the TV handicapper out there at Remington Park, and said, hey, what are they going to do with Ride Away? And he said, he's already heading to Florida. So I think they knew they had a pretty good one there who was ready to maybe hit some of the bigger races. And I think sending him down to Florida, getting him a race on the turf like that, motion will be versatile with him. I think this is a horse to really watch moving forward. Something at Turfway like the Spiral motion kind of, focuses on that race. We've seen him do it with Animal Kingdom, went the day well, some of those horses. I think Ride Away is a Spiral favorite right now if you had to make an early book on a mid-season race. I really think he's kind of the horse to circle and look for to show up at Turfway.
I like that. You're going right to the stable mail in the middle of the chat. You're seeing the horse, boom, right to the stable mail.
If I don't, I'll forget. If you've ever seen my past performances, they're chicken scratch all over the place. And if I make a note like that, it's got to be documented somewhere else. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the way I do things. When I see a horse I really want to play, and that's really the genesis of our Horse Player Now Buzz Report. It's our horses to watch from, 6, 8, 10 different handicappers around the country who are doing those same kind of things. When we see a horse that we want to play back in the future, they go into that stable mail and we get alerted to them when they run back.
And finally, this next one's kind of interesting along those same lines, one that might float under the radar for people in that it comes out of Parks. Now, it didn't float under the radar at Parks because of the connections who are going to take a lot of action down there. Guadalupe Preciado, the trainer, debut effort in a maiden special on January 4th at Parks. Favorite Tail, a 3-year-old son of Tail of the Cat. Debuts again down at Parks, going 6 furlongs, wins off by 2, 6-5 favorite again because of those connections. You will get all kinds of attention at Parks. But being a Parks-based horse, if this horse moves on, might float under the radar a little bit. Again, your thoughts on Favorite Tail?
Well, Favorite Tail won 6 furlongs in 107.66, and if that makes you just shake your head, it was 2 ticks off the track record. And I went back and I looked at the charts for that day. The times were quick, but they weren't ridiculously quick. This was far and away fast. And when you have a really fast time, to me, the way you judge it is how close the horses are bunched at the wire. If 4 or 5 of them are within 2 or 3 lengths, then you know it was the track and not the horse putting up that kind of time. This race kind of spread eagle. There was a lot of distance. I think it was 11 lengths back to 4th and 20-some lengths back to the back of the pack. So he spread the field out. First to 4th, 11 lengths in a 6-furlong race is a pretty good whooping. And I think Favorite Tail's one to watch. We had a horse similar last year come out of Parks by Tail of the Cat, and he got attention later on because of the trainer, Todd Pletcher's 40 Tails. And that's where I first discovered 40 Tails last year, was at Parks, running a big sprint race. And, he went on to win the Derby Trial and became a stakes winner at Saratoga as well. I believe he won the Amsterdam. So, I think Favorite Tail is a horse to look at moving forward. Any horse by Tail of the Cat is going to love the Poly track at Keeneland. I can tell you that right now as someone who studies Keeneland. These horses love the Poly. So Favorite Tail may be a horse to look at for something like the Lexington later in the spring at 1 16th on the Poly at Keeneland. This horse is going to get a nice stakes win somewhere if he stays healthy and sound, because that is a lot of debut talent we saw, and he's got a nice pedigree.
Okay, and as the show is going, I'm now putting into my notes Favorite Tail at Keeneland. So yeah, I'm right on your note-taking agenda there. Jeremy, again, certainly appreciate the visit as always. Some good thoughts. We are firmly on the Triple Crown Trail. I said it to you last week, and you kind of reiterated the thoughts. For me, the 2-year-old season's the preseason. We're now into the regular season. We get to those major preps. That becomes the playoffs. And then, of course, the championships, the Triple Crown races. But we are in the midst of the regular season. It's a lot of fun. And certainly, folks will want to keep up with it. Countdown to the Crown, your regular column. As you learned it Sunday, you're going to be available on the countdowntothecrown.com website this year, correct?
That's right. It'll be there every Friday. It'll be posted Friday mid-morning each week. I'm handling it myself, and we're doing it kind of in a nice newsletter format to make it easier to print out and easier to read and follow, separating the sections. So go to countdowntothecrown.com every Friday morning, mid-afternoon, and you'll be able to download it. It'll have picks for the weekend, a recap of all the past races we've seen, horses to watch, just like we talked about here. Some of the stuff I'm telling you, I'm looking at it on my screen right now. It's coming directly out of the column for Friday. So your listeners are getting some of the first peeks at Friday's column.
Nice. We like that. And once again, we'll tell people the horseplayernow.com 2014 preseason annual, a great product. And again, you can link via Equidaily if you pop over there. Jeremy, as always, appreciate the visit. We'll talk to you next week.
Okay, everyone. Take care.
Thanks a lot. Jeremy Plonk, horseplayernow.com, countdown to the crown. That'll bring us to our next break. When we come back, it will be Michael Amo of ThoroughFan. We'll take a little preview of their breakfast coming up, Clips weekend down at Gulfstream Park. Stay tuned.
The future of online betting is here, and only at the all-new CapitalOTBBet.com. CapitalOTBBet.com delivers a state-of-the-art wagering experience found nowhere else in horse racing. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Fascinated by the world of horse racing? Interested in honing your handicapping skills? Class is in session. Night school, Monday nights. Easy to access online. It's free, interactive, and informative for the casual and serious race fan. Horse Player Now Buzz. Live horses to watch emailed to you daily. Our eyes, your prize. Night School in the Buzz. Visit horseplayernow.com for details.
Each morning on the OTB TV network, you get the very best in horse racing programming. Weekdays begin with the Handicappers Report, where professional handicappers share their selections and analysis of the day's racing. Followed by Racing Across America, a daily conversation with racing personalities from around the country. Saturdays include Down the Stretch, where Mark Casano speaks with the biggest names in racing. And Sunday mornings, it's Loose on the Lead, where Steve Bick and I offer news and a unique lineup of weekly guests. All here on the OTB TV network.
Funding your Capital OTB bet account is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Easy Money. Clearly the fastest and easiest method of depositing funds into your account. Make deposits or withdrawals in just minutes. 2. Green Dot Money Pack. Gives you instant access to your funds. Green Dot Money Packs are available at thousands of retailers nationwide. And 3. MasterCard Visa. Simply click on the link from the funding page, enter your account information, and fund your account. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today. Missed one of our TV shows? No worries. Now you can catch all your favorite programs online. Simply log on to CapitalOTB.com and click on the YouTube link at the bottom of the homepage. And look for our new podcast coming soon. CapitalOTB.com. Log on today.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Wednesday morning. Seth Merrow in the studio. Happy to be joined now via phone by Michael Amo, the founder of ThoroughFan. Michael, good morning.
Good morning, Seth. Thanks for having me on.
Happy to have you on always, because ThoroughFan, a great organization. We're going to talk a little bit in a moment about your breakfast that's coming up down at Gulfstream, tied into Eclipse weekend. But first of all, for folks who aren't familiar with ThoroughFan, whenever we have you on, I'd like to have you give a little overview of the organization, because certainly if folks are out there and they're racing fans and they'd like to become a little more directly involved in the game, ThoroughFan is a great way to do it. So again, give us a little overview of the organization.
We're 5 years old as a national not-for-profit 501c3 organization, and everybody that works involved are volunteers, so that's important. And we're all racing fans, and our goal is to try to bring racing fans together as a membership organization, so that we can create a voice of the fan in the industry. And I think it's typified here in New York. Seth, because as a result of some of ThoroughFan's work, the New York State, the governor, actually Governor Cuomo, appointed and created the Racing Fan Advisory Council to the Gaming Commission, made up of racing fans, and we recommended that for them. And that's just a perfect example. If you have a voice, you can get that voice heard. We're the only state in the country that has an advisory group to the Gaming Commission made up of fans. That's just one example of what an organization like ThoroughFan can get done in New York and any state. We have members in over 30 states. We have chapters in 4 or 5 states at this point: South Florida, Monmouth Park, the New York City area, Saratoga, and California, Southern California right now. And the idea is to bring fans together so their voice can be with the industry.
And if folks are interested, they can go to your website, ThoroughFan, and it is spelled THOROUGHFAN. F-A-N, ThoroughFan, and find out more information on how to become a member. And Michael, it seems like one of the events that is now becoming a regular and a big one on the ThoroughFan calendar is the Eclipse Breakfast, tied into a number of events. I got a press release from the Eclipse folks just within the past few days. Looks like a nice kind of few days leading into the Eclipse weekend down at Gulfstream Park. The Eclipse Awards, of course, Saturday, January 18th. In the week preceding, there is a charity golf tournament. There is a ladies' luncheon. But on Friday, the 17th, the ThoroughFan Awards Breakfast. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we're really happy that the Eclipse Awards folks and NTRA invited us to be an official part of Eclipse Week. We started this last year, and it went so well, they asked us to come and be part of it. And the real way to look at this from a ThoroughFan perspective is that we're trying to create the platform for fandom, if you will. And if you look at the racing industry, and specifically Eclipse, there's very little emphasis on the role of the fan in the sport. And we hope that this awards breakfast that we're building on, working on, becomes during Eclipse Week or the Eclipse process, the event where all fan-related things get discussed. And I think we're getting people to hear that. We're getting the industry to support us on that. We give an award, and I'll tell you about that. We give a ThoroughFan award every year. Last year we gave it to Mrs. Wolfson, who is the owner of Affirmed. This year we're giving it to Scott Campbell, who owns Dogwood Stables, and probably is the one person who conceptualized the partnership idea and brought hundreds of thousands of fans into the ownership realm that they never could have got into if as a result of all the other partnerships. So he's really iconic in that area. Our keynote speaker is interesting, is Mandy Pope. And for the people who don't know Mandy Pope, she has been in the business quite a long time as an owner and breeder. But she's the one that just bought Groupie Doll for $3.1 million in Keeneland in November after the Groupie Doll won the Breeders' Cup Sprint. And why we invited her to talk to us is because she said she wanted to run Groupie Doll again. And she did in the Cigar Mile, and she's going to run Groupie Doll again in Florida. So the fans get more of an opportunity to see a really great horse. So she's coming on, and she's bringing Buff Bradley, the trainer, Groupie Doll, to talk. And the next speaker is an interesting gentleman named Brent Comer, who people probably won't know the name, but he was the vet tech that helped nurse Rachel Alexander back to health after her recent bout with the foaling. And if you saw pictures of during those years, you saw this man with Rachel. And now Brent has been hired by Stone Street to be their medical care coordinator for all their horses. And so he's going to come and talk about Rachel and what it was like, and he's got a slideshow, a video piece he's going to show, and he's going to talk about that. So we got speakers, and we got probably two of the more recognizable female horses in question, Groupie Doll and Rachel Alexander. So we think we're going to have a great breakfast.
Yeah, and also I note here you are going to be giving an award away, Horse Racing Nation's Fan of the Year, and more importantly, perhaps, you're going to be announcing the NTRA Moment of the Year.
That's correct. I should have said that, and thank you for bringing it up. Yeah, Horse Racing Nation, which is an excellent website, and they do some wonderful stuff in terms of social media, in terms of dealing with racing, creates their Fan of the Year. And we went to them and said, rather than compete, why should ThoroughFan create a Fan of the Year? You're already doing it. Why don't we collaborate on this? And they agreed, and last year they gave the first one at our event, and this year they're doing it again. So I think it's a good way that fan organizations cannot compete, but can collaborate for the common good of all fans. So we're excited about working with them. And NTRA saw our event as a wonderful platform to announce the moment of the year in racing. And if people go to the NTRA website, they can see what it's about. If they don't, they've selected it's 10 events, and they're voting on them. Fans can vote on them and pick the Fan of the Year, the event of the year, the moment of the year, I should say. And then NTRA is going to unveil it at our breakfast. And then the following night, at the Eclipse Award, they'll give an award to it. But they're going to unveil it at our breakfast. So it's really an opportunity for the fans to honor the leaders in our industry, to have an up-close relationship with really notable people in our industry, and to recognize other things that are fan-like.
And again, this is Friday, January 17th. Eclipse Awards are January 18th. There's great racing down there at Gulfstream as well that entire weekend. I believe it's Sunshine Millions weekend as well. So if we have any snowbirds up here who are headed down for that weekend, how do they find out more about getting tickets to the event?
Well, they can go to the Thoroughfan website. That's thoroughfan.com, and at the top or to the right, there's a click-through to purchasing tickets. It's actually thoroughfan.com/awards, plural, and you can get it that way as well. But it's $75 a ticket, and what you get for that is interesting. The breakfast buffet in 10 Palms, it's the wonderful room that overlooks the track. I think it normally sells for $50 for that buffet, and you get that. You get the event. You actually be part of that event, of the event. You're also going to get a reserved seat for the day of racing. You're going to get a program from Gulfstream. So you put it all together, and you're probably very close to your $75 of what you're getting, and the rest of it is being used to help support Thoroughfan. And last year, and if we're as successful as we were last year, we were able to take $1,000 of our proceeds from the event, and we donated it to Gulfstream Aftercare. So we took some of the money that we had and gave it to the organization that takes care of horses off the racetrack.
Nice. Very, very nice. Absolutely. And Michael, before we let you go, last couple of weeks I've been asking all the guests as we wrapped up 2013, racing highlights and/or lowlights for the 2013 season. You have maybe one or two ideas of looking back at 2013 that stood out in your mind?
Well, I certainly think the development of the Triple Crown races was very, very interesting. I think, we were off and on between who was the best horse of the year and who was going to be the next world champion to, Orb is no longer around. And I think it was an exciting Triple Crown period, and I think the Travers was a great race. So I think we really saw a really exciting, protracted Triple Crown where I think fans really could see lots of horses grow and mature. That was good. And I think the Breeders' Cup was classic with, I think the Groupie Doll winning back-to-back sprints. I think it was just terrific. I think I'm looking forward to where we're going in 2014. We had a very active year, and it was great.
Yeah, and that was one of my highlights, too. I said it last week. I thought the three-year-old season was very good, just for what you said. First, there's Orb, and we think, well, there's the superstar, and then maybe not so much. Then Verrazano and the Haskell, and we're latched onto him. And finally, at the end of the year, things kind of sorted themselves out with Will Take Charge starting in that very nice Travers. So I agree completely. Michael, certainly do appreciate the visit, as always. Again, folks can find out more about the breakfast down at Gulfstream, January 17th, thoroughfan.com. And also find out more about joining the organization if folks are interested in getting their voice more directly involved in the game. Michael, as always, appreciate the visit. We'll talk to you later on.
Good. Hope to see a lot of folks at Gulfstream. It's a great week, and everybody in racing that you've heard about will be walking around the track. And it's just a great place to be that week, and so I encourage people, if they're going to be there, come on down.
Absolutely. Good luck with that. Talk to you later, Michael.
Thanks. Bye.
Michael Amo from thoroughfan.com. We'll take a last quick break. When we come back, I have one more race. Yesterday we looked at some three-year-old fillies. I'm going to look at that three-year-old filly race from the past weekend down at Santa Anita as well, and then we'll wrap things up. But last quick break. We'll be back in a minute.
Funding your Capital OTB bet account is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Easy Money. Clearly the fastest and easiest method of depositing funds into your account. Make deposits or withdrawals in just minutes. 2. Green Dot Money Pack. Gives you instant access to your funds. Green Dot Money Packs are available at thousands of retailers nationwide. And 3. MasterCard Visa. Simply click on the link from the funding page, enter your account information, and fund your account. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Here in upstate New York, no one provides bettors with more wagering options than Capital OTB. Our network of branch and easy bet locations stretches from the mid-Hudson Valley all the way to the Canadian border and west to central New York. So whether you need to place a bet, fund your Capital Bets account, or watch the next big race, all the action is just around the corner. A full list of our branch and easy bet locations can be found online at CapitalOTB.com. Capital OTB, the better and most convenient choice for wagering in upstate New York.
Each morning on the OTB TV network, you get the very best in horse racing programming. Weekdays begin with the Handicappers Report, where professional handicappers share their selections and analysis of the day's racing. Followed by Racing Across America, a daily conversation with racing personalities from around the country. Saturdays include Down the Stretch, where Mark Casano speaks with the biggest names in racing. And Sunday mornings, it's Loose on the Lead, where Steve Bick and I offer news and a unique lineup of weekly guests. All here on the OTB TV network.
Wagering at CapitalOTBBet.com is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Capital Bet TV, the fastest and easiest online wagering experience where you can monitor 5 different tracks simultaneously. 2. Capital Bet Express. Its straightforward program layout and interactive handicapping information lets you build your wager quickly and efficiently. And 3. Capital Bet Pro, designed especially for the professional horse player. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Welcome back. Just have about a minute left, but I did, as I say, wanted to pull up that 3-year-old filly race from Santa Anita this past Saturday. We looked at a couple of the 3-year-old filly stakes races from the weekend yesterday. You know, the 3-year-old fillies are as important as the 3-year-old boys. We're coming to the Kentucky Oaks, and there is a 3-year-old filly series at most of the major tracks, so we'll be certainly watching some of these, watching this division closely as well. This race, just to me, is a little more of an unknown than what we watched yesterday. Only 4 horses in the Santa Ynez. We'll see the stretch run here. It will be the number 3, Awesome Baby, getting it done. But this horse is going to be kind of interesting to watch going forward. It will be number 3, Awesome Baby, winning at 5-1 for Bob Baffert. But Bob Baffert, wins at 5-1 with Awesome Baby. Also runs a disappointing 3rd with Crushed Velvet, the 4-5 favorite, off a big debut win. So Crushed Velvet disappoints, running 3rd. Awesome Baby wins at 5-1. Tastes Like Candy, the Jerry Hollendorfer horse, runs an okay 2nd in here. Awesome Baby, though, to me, going to be interesting to watch going forward. This horse went off at 5-1 for a reason, because broke the maiden in the career debut early August at Del Mar. Followed that up in the Del Mar Debutante, fading to a disappointing 7th. Then was in the Chandelier at Santa Anita, going 1 1/16, 5th by 23 lengths. So promising in the debut effort, the win in the first start, and then disappointed the next 2, off since September. So maybe came back last week, maybe a little added maturity. It was only a 4-horse field. That's why I can't get too excited about it. But Awesome Baby, going to be a little bit interesting to watch going forward. And I'll also see if Crushed Velvet maybe just was in a little over her head, and she'll bounce back, because I thought off the career debut she would be kind of interesting. I can't believe she is, faded to 3rd. But again, in a 4-horse field, things can work out a little bit quirky. So we'll keep our eyes on those 3-year-old fillies on the West Coast as well. All right, that's going to wrap things up for Racing Across America for this Wednesday morning. Again, on this morning's show, Richard Migliore from the New York Racing Association. Again, he talked a little bit about the nice event they have coming up on Sunday, New Owners Luncheon. If you have any thought about potentially becoming an owner, becoming joining one of these partnerships, that New Owners Luncheon on Sunday down at Aqueduct is the way to go. You can find out more information on the Aqueduct website or call the number that's on your screen right now. More info and registration. Jeremy Plonk from HorsePlayerNow.com and Countdown to the Crowd. Got the nice 2014 preseason annual out right now, so check that out. And, of course, we had Michael Amo on from Thoroughfan. They've got the Thoroughfan Breakfast down at Gulfstream on January 17th. If you're headed down, you're a snowbird, you're headed down that way, keep that in mind. All right, that's going to wrap things up for Racing Across America. We're here every Monday through Friday from 10 to 11 a.m. A little earlier is the Handicappers Report. This morning it was Anthony Mormino and myself. We looked at Turf Paradise in Tampa. Hopefully we gave you some good ideas. So cash some tickets this afternoon. We'll see you in here again tomorrow morning.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.